Welcome to Tanked Up, the podcast, all about video games and beer. I'm Ben, and this week I'm here with Lucy.
I'm back.
Hey, how you feeling this week, Lucy?
Much better.
Good.
The cold is 99% God, so good.
That 1% lingering around, ready to strike at any moment.
Oh God, yeah, it could come back at any time, so it's like, gotta wrap up, stay indoors.
That's it. It's the winter now.
It is.
Or at least late autumn already.
Yeah. It's when the leaves start dropping, it's like, oh no. And then when it's raining and the leaves are all on the floor and nobody cleared them out the way and it's a hazard and you're just gonna slip on them, and this is what getting old is about. You just think everything's trying to kill me.
That's because it actually is. So, to celebrate the darker, the cold, the wet nights, I'm going to be drinking a very large stout. You're not drinking this week, Lucy?
No, I have no beers. I'm ill-prepared.
Well, I am only having the one this week, but it is a bit of a big boy. This is something Dark Side, which is an Imperial Salted Caramel Chocolate Stout at 11%, and is by Heist Brew Company and Emperor's Brewery. And it has a little bit of flavour text, which, because it's like a Star Warsy beer...
Yeah, and it is actually called something Dark
It is,
Side.
yeah.
I had to think for a second. Does he not know what
And and obviously Emperor's Brewery is a little Palpatine. Obviously not too Palpatine. Otherwise they'd probably get in trouble. So the flavour text is like the Star Wars scroll, so you can see how tiny the first bit of writing is.
Yeah.
So, a not so long time ago in a brewery far, far away, in an attempt to eliminate the mash tun and FV forces, the Emperor rolled out the ultimate weapon, the 400 kilo. It was this attack that led to the success of something Dark Side. Doesn't really tell you much, a little bit about how they brewed it, but not very much at all. Doesn't give me much in the way of ingredients: barley, oats, hops, yeast, water, caramel syrup, or caramel and then syrup, don't know, cacao nibs, salt, and it's 11%.
You know what? This is the perfect day and weather for that kind of beer.
I know. Exactly.
It's like you picked the right day.
It's been sat on my shelf for weeks, just waiting.
Aged it.
I know. Well, slightly. Yeah, but maybe about 6 weeks aged. It does have a best before date on, which was for next year at some time. 1st of July 2020, which is interesting because a lot of people stick stuff on the bottom, whereas these guys have just got it underneath their percentage in the small text. So I shall get this poured. Lucy.
Wonderful. Yes.
What are you drinking water out of tonight?
Just well, I guess this is what people put protein in, the Maxi Muscle cups.
Yep.
Tastes
is it good,
as always.
As good as the measuring jug?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
You're open topped as well with it. So
yeah. I don't know. That's the tricky one. That is a tricky one because you get quite how many mils is this? This is 700 mil.
Yeah.
Takes up less space, so it's just hanging on the edge of my desk at the moment. So yeah, I think they both have their purposes. They both have their uses.
Nice.
Yeah, I like this vamping whilst you pour the beer.
Well, it's poured. The head was, I mean, it stuck around nicely. It was a little bit larger when I poured it. It's obviously super deep in colour. It's got a little hint of sort of brown to it. It's not sort of jet black. It has got that sort of, I don't know whether you can get it from the edges and just in the light, or maybe not. But just a little hint of brown to it. Obviously, the head is a nice sort of brown as well. Didn't get a huge flavour when or a huge nose when I cracked the can.
Okay.
And I've got a sort of even here, sort of just at just about half a foot away. I'm not getting very much, but as soon as you stick your nose in, It's all chocolate,
Yeah.
just tons and tons of chocolate. Doesn't give anything else away at all. Doesn't give away the percentage. Doesn't give away the, what else was it? Salted caramel. It's just a lot of chocolate coming straight off there.
Yeah, it's definitely stout season. Getting in the mood for that again now. Having those heavy, chocolatey, comforting beers.
So this is quite an odd profile to it.
Okay.
As soon as you sup it, it's got a little bit of body to it, slight viscosity to it. But that salt, that salted caramel, kicks in sort of straight away. And the first flavour you get is that salt. Gets a little bit more caramelly, almost edging on kind of like toffee kind of flavours, a little bit sort of more burnt as well, a little bit roasted, and then the chocolate starts to come back in and gives you, I think it's cacao nibs, so it gives you a little bit of bitterness as well, kicking through on the back. Not getting the 11% yet at all. I've only had 2 sips so far, I suppose.
It'll hit you eventually, don't worry.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's very easy to drink. You can already see. It's so easy to knock back. But it's interesting that it's that salt that hits you first, which is really odd because it makes it quite a bland sort of first impression, sort of just salt, and then it leads into everything. And I assume they're trying to use the salt to open your taste buds up a little bit, to then give a bit more presence to those flavours and make them probably a little bit more pronounced kind of as you drink through it. But it's very, I thought it would be a little bit more heavy than it is, up at 11%. It's quite light for an 11% stout, which is really really good. It's nice that they've been able to keep that sort of that medium kind of body to it. A little, not syrupy, but just a slight sort of viscosity to it. Almost kind of as you might feel about a beer that's using sort of like oil, like hop oils or something in there. It's just got that little bit of that kick to the body to it as well.
Yeah. Oh, it's a tough one. I mean, usually we like a heavily bodied stouts. We don't like them when they're too light and thin. Sometimes it can be too viscous, but sometimes, what was the name of that bit? I think it was the bearded lady from Magic Rock. Yeah. That was a heavy number. It's like, this has got a, thick body to it, but everything else just balanced as well. And it's, you want that kind of heavy hitting kind of beer, but sometimes it's nice when it's like, I think like some of the Lervics I had like a couple of years ago, where it's like, this is quite not thin, but it's light and it's easy drinking, and it's easy to drink like 10 of these and you're screwed.
Yes, I think what we found with it wasn't not this year's Bristol Beer Festival, the year before, when almost everyone had some kind of double strength stout or an Imperial Stout or something. Like, we were getting a lot of thicker kind of beers, and I don't know whether people have just started brewing them slightly differently or mixing things slightly differently. We things have started to lighten quite a lot, and maybe it's a product of also having like a summer stout as well, or at least releasing your stouts in sort of spring through summer, that you want something that's a little lighter. You're not quite in the depths of winter and having to sort of huddle under your blanket sipping a stout for warmth. So maybe there's a little bit of that sort of seasonal effect going on with a lot of sort of more recent stouts.
Maybe, They do seem to be all year round these days.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember that one I had in Cotteridge Wines, which was I think the best one of the of the beers from the Cotteridge Wines. Again, that was sort of more medium bodied. It didn't have that sort of that creamy thickness to it. It just had a more oily, sort of slightly syrupy kind of finish to it. So it's just interesting to kind of get that different level. I don't know, without having a very similar flavoured beer, I don't know whether it being more full body would do anything more for this, at least.
As long as it's got like the coffee flavours, the chocolate, bitterness, then yeah, it's medium, heavy-bodied.
Yeah.
Not too much of a difference. It's just how many can you drink before feeling full?
Yes, yeah. I think the more I said I didn't get the alcohol straight off. I think the more I drink it, starting to feel that a little bit.
Starting to feel the burn.
It's not quite the burn. It's almost got the same mouthfeel or kind of lasting mouthfeel as like a shot of Jaeger, which is a very syrupy sort of drink. It very much. I mean, I love Jaeger. It's what I would drink every day.
Oh my god! I was just thinking. I was just picturing this nice coffee, creamy, marshmallowy stout in my mind, and then he said Jaeger, and I was like,
I mean, it doesn't have the same flavour as Jaeger. It's not very sort of, it's not medicinal.
I feel, yeah.
It's not. This isn't going to, keep me healthy for the rest of the year, but it's definitely got the similar kind of mouthfeel.
Yeah.
Which I am all about. Right, I'm going to put this beer down for at least 30 seconds because it will be gone before we've even started talking about games and what we're going to talk about tonight. So, I'm going to come to you first, Lucy. For the evening.
Yes.
What would you like to talk about this evening? Yes.
I'll just run through some games that I've been playing with.
Okay.
Yes, I think Blazing Chrome was the last thing I talked about on here.
Yes. Yeah, we chatted about that 2 weeks ago. Yeah, it must be.
Yeah. Since then, I went back into the 90s and I played Indiana Jones and the Fate of Atlantis, the LucasArts point-and-click game.
Nice.
And I played Donkey Kong 94 on Virtual Console. Yes, I went back into the time and I played Bully. So.
Oh yes.
Yeah. That's an odd. You just wouldn't think that Rockstar would make a game about schools, but they did, and I enjoyed it. It's cool.
I remember we were chatting about it on the Discord. What, last week or a few days ago?
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Was it that long?
Yeah.
And I think we were saying, for me, when the game came out, I played it sort of on release. That at least the way that you felt about it when it released, like I was far enough removed kind of from school to be kind of thinking, well, okay, yeah, this is a cool idea, this is a cool game, it runs really well, it's paced quite well. I seem to remember there are a few sort of shitty bits, like you got to run around and throw snowballs at like 4 people or something like that, and
you know what, after playing Red Dead, which is basically the same philosophy and structure of Rockstar games for like the last 20 years, and that was 40 hours, and Bully was like, I don't know, 15.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is. I liked looking through it in a view of like, oh, this is how you get. You're obviously setting it in a school, so it's not going to be guns. It's going to be like slingshots and stuff like that. So it's like. And like car chases, obviously on bikes and stuff like that. So that novelty of seeing how they adapted it to fit in that whole, environment, that novelty didn't wear off after 15 hours. But yeah, it is very by the numbers, collectathon, fetch quests. But it's just like it was just good comfort food, and it holds up better than most GTA games from that time, like massively so. So
I think it probably helps from that limited kind of map. It's not massively expansive. Again, as you say, it's only sort of a 15-16 hour kind of game, so you're not sat there for hours and hours constantly doing stuff. I feel it was a little bit more similar to something like Manhunt than it kind of was to GTA. A little bit more kind of structured in what you were trying to do. And it had that. Did it have a time? Did it have a count, like a clock?
Yeah, there was a clock. So
yeah,
you had classes at like 9:30 in the morning and like 1:30 in the evening. But as you say, it's very much more streamlined. Like I think it was Rockstar Vancouver who made it, and I was just watching the credits, and it was like the credits were over in like a minute or 2 minutes. And I was
Really?
just thinking, well, Red Dead, if you sat and watched those credits, you'd be there for like 6 hours. So
Yeah, like 7 songs later.
yeah. But yeah, it was interesting to go back, and I'm glad it holds up, like control scheme wise. And I really liked going to geography classes.
Yeah, really?
Yeah.
What was it about
Those were
geography
fun.
class?
Just pointing the It's like, which flag is this? Which country is this? And it's like,
Okay.
I'm good with flags, so that was fun.
Yeah.
Music, oh my god, I flunked out of that. It's just like, I'm not good at like rhythm games. It's just like, this is hard.
I know.
Oh,
Having now like recently played this, Bully 2 has been rumoured for years.
Yeah.
And I've got no idea whether it's in development, whether it's just a one singular whiteboard in a Rockstar office with just Bully 2 written on it and nothing else. I've got no idea how far along this project is. Do you think you'd be more interested in playing something like Bully 2 than you would be maybe like the next Grand Theft Auto game?
It depends on the setting.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, I'd probably be more interested in Bully at this point because I don't know. I think the only place that Rockstar can go with a GTA is back to the 80s. You know, at this point, I don't know how they'd say it in modern day times.
Yeah.
Because, as you say, this is a dystopia and we're just living through it. But anyway,
Completely.
like,
all they need to do is it's like a real world simulator, isn't it? Really, that's all they'd have to do.
Yeah. Plus, I'd be less interested in that. Like, I don't know, because I don't like high fantasy or sci-fi that much, and like stuff like GTA has always been like, yeah, this is like current day or almost current day, and I much prefer those kinds of settings. But
Yeah.
I didn't like GTA. I did like GTA 5. I should clarify that, but I didn't like it. Looking back, it hasn't held up as well as like the others have for me. It's my favorite out of all of them. So, yeah.
Well, I see. I think, for me at least, that GTA 2 is just a little bit worse than GTA 5 because that was set in a slightly futuristic, fictional kind of setting, and there were like gangs, which, you know, it wasn't quite the Yakuza, it wasn't quite sort of, you know, various different kinds of gangs. It's quite like corporation sort of focus and stuff. And again, a very sort of early kind of satirization of a setting, you know, much like all of the GTAs kind of have been. But I think GTA 5 just kind of had that level of quality to it that just kind of, it does, I don't know, I still think San Andreas is my favourite.
Same. Yeah, I was, to clarify, I was talking about like the 3D ones, like my friend had the first two. I only played a little bit of those. Yeah, the 3D ones mainly. Can't really speak too much to the first two. But yeah, San Andreas, my favourite.
Best one, mate. Probably still best Rockstar game.
Yeah, I mean, people would say the first Red Dead, and I wouldn't disagree with that. Just for me, San Andreas.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. So have you come back to this century at all for your games?
Oh yeah. Came back to this century.
When were these games from? No, Bully was this century. Bully was like 2004 or 5, wasn't it? Okay.
6. I played the what's it called? Scholarship Edition, which I think came out in 2008. Played that on back compat. Yeah, but yes, I did play a game from this year for once. That is called. Maybe I should wait. I'll wait till next week to talk about that because I think Adil might have played that. It's called Etherborn.
Right.
You might have played that, or at least he should have by now. And I'll prompt him to play at least by next week. So I'll speak about that next week.
Nice.
It's fairly new. I think it came out in end of July. So
yeah,
we're still quite fresh with that. But even fresher is a game called A Short Hike.
Oh yes. Tell me about this.
I guess it's fresher in one sense. If you have the Humble Bundle monthly subscription, it would have been in your Trove, I think around March or something like that. But it recently came to Steam and I think Itch about 2 weeks ago, I think. It is a very, very pleasant short game. It's basically it's got like 2D pixel art, but it's in a 3D world. You play as a anthropomorphic bird who she's just on this, this small little island, and there's a mountain in the middle of it, and you get on the island, and basically she's a city bird. She's from the city, and it's basically she's taken a little. I think she used to go there as a child. I think her aunt lives on this like little island, and she's just gone there, just for a rest, to get away from the big city and life in general. And it's basically your whole aim is to climb to the top of the mountain. It's got especially for a small game, it's got a really good like gameplay loop. It's not just a simple, quote unquote walking simulator. You can actually, as you're a bird, you can actually glide and fly, like flap to like get a little bit higher. You can't just free fly and everything, but you can hover slightly, glide, and basically at the start of the game you don't really have much ability, as in you can only glide and fly for a short period of time, but you collect these golden feathers, throughout the world. They're scattered throughout the world, and also if you complete small little quests, or you can buy some, they give you like basically more stamina. You can glide for longer. You can actually climb as well, and you can run as well for longer.
So is it like a little bit of like a progression sort of system?
Yeah.
Would you to complete the game, without kind of getting too far into what you were going to say, to complete the game, would you ever need to upgrade?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's definitely a point in the game where it's like, oh, you're going to, like, the signpost throughout the mountain. It's like, for this stretch of the mountain, you're going to need at least 7 golden feathers minimum.
Right, okay.
Don't just say that. So, in that gameplay loop, you are looking for feathers, and the way you can accrue feathers most of the time is completing little tasks for people on this island. They're also animals. It's a bit like Animal Crossing, where it's like, I need 12 seashells on the shore, or it's like, oh, why don't you play beach ball with me? If we can get a volley of 20, here's a golden feather. Or I lost my pocket watch in the forest, can you find it for me? So very rudimentary, simple tasks. But yeah, for completing those you get more feathers, and it's just a relaxing experience. It's like there's nothing too strenuous about it. It's nothing like, the flying and the gliding, it's very easy. It's very, it's probably like 1 or 2 buttons you're using at that. It's not Microsoft Flight Simulator or something like that. It's just very easy. And, it's got wonderful visual art style, really colourful characters. They've got nice, quirky and funny, dialogue. It kind of reminds me of the Frog Detective game that we played. Yeah. That's pretty cool. I wonder when the next episode of that is coming out.
That's very soon. I have seen it sort of.
Yeah.
A few tweets about it recently. I can't remember whether it was just sort of progress sort of bits and just all promotional sort of stuff, but I can imagine that's going to be soon.
Yeah, but it's like the same kind of like dry humor. Just small like little dialogue text. It's not an RPG where you're reading through tons of text that characters talking at you time. And, it can be completed in about an hour. You can get up the mountain in about an hour. Feathers are not hard to accrue. They're pretty much scattered everywhere, and you can get more than enough. I think I ended it off with like 18, and it's like if you only need 7 at the end of the day to get to the peak, then you know, it's not really challenging you in that respect, but it's fun enough just going to the different places of the island, exploring it, seeing the different characters and stuff. And I won't ruin the ending, but yeah, the ending's like, it's quite sweet, quite nice. And when you get to the top of the mountain, and if you get all the collectibles, all the feathers, and help everyone else, there's a few like races and stuff like that. You know, it'll probably take you about 2 hours in total for 100% completion. So, yeah, nice little experience.
A short hike.
Yes, it is. Fully recommend it. It's only about £5-6.
Yeah, I think when you mentioned it, I'd seen a couple of screenshots, and it looks really nice.
Yeah, it's really pretty.
Really, really pretty. And a really like colourful aesthetic to it as well.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. If you just want a nice, pleasant experience, you don't want anything too taxing, or it's got like a nice little story to it. Yeah, you can't go wrong with this.
That's exactly what I want right now.
Yeah. So I came home from work like one day, and I was just like, I just chill there, and it's like. I was pleasantly surprised, and it was better than I thought it would be. Yeah.
Nice. Again, something that's like super short too. Just trying to fit in. I assume you did it in one sitting?
Yes.
Yeah.
Did. I went back to it to get an achievement at a certain time because I'm sick in the head.
Need those points, mate.
Pass off a good, you can't pass off a easy achievement. Just can't. It's like downloaded Slay the Spire, which is on Game Pass. Played a bit of that on PC. It's fun. People should check it out, especially if they can on PC or Xbox for free. I was just looking at the achievements, and I was like, these are impossible. It's like nobody's completed these. And it's like having to complete the game in so many different permutations, which would probably need 600 hours prior to it. But then I thought, there's one achievement I could get. I'm going to download this. I'll probably never end up playing it, but I still have that little bit of addiction.
That's fair.
A little bit.
That's fair. Slay the Spire looked interesting, but I don't think it's kind of, again, like for you, it's not something I kind of want to get that invested in and spend all of that time.
Yeah, it's a lot of hours you'll need to accumulate in it. It's the things about a roguelike I don't like, where it's like there's just not enough progression run to run, and for some people it might be enough, but for me, I want massive amounts of progression. I want a roguelike to be done in 11 hours max.
Yeah, or you want like super short runs.
These runs last quite a bit. Like it's easy to get to like the first like boss. I think is there 3 floors in total, so I can easily get to like 1.5 floors. But I think the back half of that would require hours and hours and hours and hours of grinding. And
I watched Dave Towsey, friend of the podcast, Dave of Pillbug Interactive. They do a few streams, or do a like a Tuesday night stream. So I try and jump on to watch those guys occasionally, and he did a Slay the Spire evening, and he must have been streaming for like 2 hours and was just going to keep going. And I got to a point where I'm like, hey, I'm going to go to bed now. Take it easy, dude. Have fun playing the rest of the game. And like, it was a really good way for me to kind of understand the basics of the game and to think to myself, actually, this looks really fun, looks really good if you kind of want that like card-based deck building progression, and you want a little bit around that sort of thing, and when to play certain cards and stuff. But I knew kind of instantly after about 20 minutes that I wasn't going to play this game.
I had a hot and heavy like evening with it, where I just played it all evening, and then like died back to the start of the run. Not much progression. I was just like, Yeah, it's like a really, it's really fun. I can see why people put hundreds and hundreds of hours into it. It's just not something I want to do personally, but I can see that it does have that depth in there if you want to do that. But
Yeah.
I'm very superficial and surface level. It's like I want instant gratification. Let me kill this boss and let me beat the game. So,
And that is fair. That's all you need. That's all anyone
it's
should
like
need.
yeah, it's like, what's the name of that game? Bad North.
Oh yeah.
That's a roguelike, and I played quite a few hours of it, but I stopped playing because well, okay, I'm just getting killed and going back to the beginning. But I think they're putting in an update. I don't think it's quite hit Switch yet. I think it's on Steam, where I think you can keep some things between runs, or even
Okay, that's
you
nice.
can have it on like baby mode. I think where you're not put back on the first island or something. So I'll probably get back into that after the update.
Nice. Good.
Yeah.
Ooh. It leads me quite nicely into kind of what I've been playing. I want to talk about like 2 games. One I'm only going to touch upon because I'm still playing it. And it's one of, I can't remember where it placed. I should have probably looked. I can't remember where it placed in my top 10 of last year, but I've been playing more Moonlighter.
Yes.
Because they released I think it's the first paid DLC they've done for it. They've put out loads and loads of stuff. Yeah, and I mentioned it last week that I'd gone back to it. So the DLC is Between Dimensions. That's what it's called, Between Dimensions. I was very kindly given a code. So Moonlighter is from, I always forget, I know it's 11-Bit Studios who published it, but it's from Digital Sun who developed the game. I think I mentioned last week to Adol and Isaac that it was kind of much more of the same. You know, it's just that like next kind of like that next level. If you want more Moonlighter, this is brilliant. You know, it gives you more Moonlighter. You're not just kind of like redoing dungeons all the time and stuff. It gives you something else, and it is harder. One of the things I really like about it is by the time I kind of finished Moonlighter, I knew what I should sell every item for. that sort of like that selling element, the kind of like the shop element, had kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit. Whereas now I'm getting, you know, new items. I've got to try and balance those in the shop again. How much am I selling them for? Am I not losing money, but am I, am I selling them at far too low and stuff, and trying to kind of balance that element again. So suddenly I've gone from when originally playing Moonlighter to really enjoying that balance between sort of like dungeoning and then this shopkeeping element. Towards the end of the game, just be like, right, doesn't matter. All I need to do now is just throw all of these items into the chests that the other, like the shop attendant, can do, and they will do it for the day. And I'm just going to go and jump in a dungeon during the daytime, and then I can just go back in the nighttime, and then I can just go in the daytime again, and just running through dungeons again and again and again. Yeah. Now it's brought that balance back, and I kind of, and it's only been on the odd occasion where I've thought, I really want to see how I can progress. I've done really well. I want to like jump back in, and part of that is the introduction of blueprints. So before, you could just upgrade weapons. You know, you had 4 upgrades of sword and shield, and then another 4 upgrades of elemental based swords and shields, and you would run through those, and that was it. You were done. You'd got to the top kind of one that did the most damage, and you were kind of ready. Now, whilst they've still got that, and they've got new items that you can upgrade to, as you're running through dungeons, bosses may drop a blueprint, and you can go to a vendor in the dungeon who will craft that blueprint for you. And they're really, they're slightly, they feel overpowered.
Alright, okay.
So they are meant to be, you know, slightly harder hitting kind of weapons or better stuff. And the only ones I got so far are weapons, so I don't know kind of how much that progresses into your different kind of your build. But the first one I got was for a like a fist weapon, like a punching weapon. So you've got to be like super close to these enemies. And I'd never used that weapon in Moonlighter before, but I really liked it. I liked how quick it was. It was doing really big damage. I liked the, if you've got a sword and a shield, you hold square, you block. With this fist, if I hold square, he will like almost overcharge himself.
Right.
And every time he hits, he loses life, but he does a much bigger hit. So it gives you a really cool balance of trying to, hitting things or trying to do a lot more damage to stuff. If you really want to take something down really quickly, once you've gone into a room, you overcharge yourself, go down, and then just deal with, getting rid of hitting a potion or something just to bump your health back up. So it's kind of giving me more Moonlighter than I was, than the base game was giving me, and it's just expanded on it that next sort of step in a really good kind of way, and introduced a few different little things that have made quite a big kind of difference to how I was playing the game.
So do those blueprints drop often? And like, I wonder what the drop rate is.
So,
are they meant to be, quite generous? In how
I
often
don't
they drop
know. I've got 2 so far. So once you've handed a blueprint in, that will always exist to the vendor in the dungeon. And another thing that they added was sort of like a new currency. So you've always been able to collect sort of slimes from different enemies in the dungeons, and they are used to create potions and to kind of sort of as a currency in that sort of way. These new ones don't go into your inventory. They are sort of a separate kind of held currency, and that's what you use to pay for the creation of an item from a blueprint. Again, you can also use them to create potions from the same vendor in the dungeon. You can also, interestingly, get him to open up a portal, and so far I've only got to level 5, but I've been able to open up a portal on level 2 and on level 4. So as soon as you go back to the dungeon, you can say, I want to start on level 4.
So
and go straight into it then as well. So there's always a little shortcut, and they exist. And so, you can use this additional currency to kind of progress your way through this new dungeon, the Between Dimensions dungeon. But the blueprints themselves, I've only got 2. One was for a fist weapon, one was for a two-handed weapon, which again is not a weapon that I use.
Is it slow?
It is slow, yes, it is slow. I very quickly moved away from the two-handed weapon and went back to the fist. So I'm using a sword and a shield kind of as I run through. Once I get to the vendor, I'll then grab this fist weapon in its place, and then use a bow and arrow for some, as the secondary weapon kind of thing. So it just gives you more options, and it's made me explore kind of more of how to play the game than I'd even really thought about or wanted to, I suppose. So I think it's just a really good addition so far, and I've still got loads more of it to explore. I have no idea how deep this new dungeon goes. The original dungeons were 3 levels. So the original dungeons were 3 levels. You went through the first, second, and then at the end of the 3rd level you hit a boss. And the whole idea was you get a key. You only have to defeat the boss once. You get a key that opens the door to the kind of the 5th dungeon as such, and that's where the end boss kind of thing is. This so far I've got down to the 5th level, so I don't know how far this kind of progresses, how far it goes. It'd be interesting to see whether it is just continual or whether there is an end, get down to say level 10 or something, that is it. So I've still got a lot more of this game to play, and it's that game that currently I'm thinking about playing over everything else.
So it's a sizable update for the
absolutely,
price. Okay, that's good.
I did just jump on the Steam store to try and see how much the DLC is. So the base game currently is
15.99?
yeah, 15.50, 15.49.
Close.
And often in sales, I would imagine. So the DLC Between Dimensions is only 5.49. So it's only a third the price of the base game. Obviously, you have to have the base game to experience it, obviously. But as a whole game, sort of £21 roughly.
Getting your
I
money's
think
worth.
it's definitely worth that. Absolutely. So it's just it just keeps giving me more, and it's why it featured so highly on my my games of the year list last year, because it was just really good, really well made, really well paced and constructed game.
It's that gameplay loop.
That is exactly what it is.
You didn't ever play Dead Cells, did you?
No.
Because literally, when you were describing Moonlight, if you hadn't said it was Moonlighter, you could just... In fact, I could probably cut and paste that, audio file of you and just say, oh, this is what Dead Cells is.
Yeah.
Because Dead Cells is... It's very similar, so I'm wondering if you'd ever, I mean, are you interested in Dead Cells?
I was, definitely. I seem to remember when you talked about it, you weren't that enamoured with certain aspects of it. The roguelike kind of element of it, and then going kind of like straight right back to the start and having to run sort of all the way kind of through the game and things.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I enjoyed it I played it for many hours, and for those many hours, but it was a case of, it was like, I need this build to beat the game. It's like, I knew that if I had this build, I could easily beat the game. It's like, after probably about let me say 30 runs to be generous. I got to the final boss, got a lot of his health down, started panicking as you do in a fight.
Yeah.
And then just got killed by him, and it was just like... And then the more runs that you did, it's like you unlocked more items, but in doing that, it's like, okay, the percentage of items that I like and I'm comfortable with and know I could beat the game with, the chances of those dropping plummeted with the amount of new items I had unlocked. And I don't like randomization as such. It's like, give me those, that loadout, that main weapon, that sub weapon, those sub weapons could easily do it. But you'd have to play too many times, and I was just like, I've got my fill of this game. I've seen it, all these areas, had my fill. It's one of the best controlling games I've ever played, but it's like, I know I can beat the boss, but am I gonna just wait until, Lady Luck drops the right weapons that I like? Or can I just say, no, I've seen all of this.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
I felt similarly with Hades. And I haven't picked Hades back up since beating it's not the final boss, but the final boss at the time. They've just released a new update for it, which is then the next set of levels, or that next sort of new room kind of experience. But I beat the boss, and I took a screenshot because it pops it up at the end. It says, this was kind of like your loadout. This is what you had. The different abilities, how you'd upgraded them. So I'm like, right, screenshot that. That is, I really like this build. This is fantastic. But again, how often are those things going to drop?
Yeah.
And I can go in and I can play, knowing that there's new stuff to experience. I can go in and I can kind of chase that.
Yeah.
Like, right, oh yeah, this is the thing that I want. Great, okay, fine. And then, all right, fine, I only spent 5 minutes on a run. I'll go back in and I'll try and chase that again. And I just don't know whether I've got the time to do that anymore.
Yeah, it's... I mean, it's good in the fact that it's like, it gets you to try out new weapons that you may have tried before, and it's, maybe you groove with those, but, often in games, it's like, I pick a weapon and I just stick with it, and not many games, unless it's like games that are like, okay, this is a, I don't know, first person shooter, and we're going to give you this certain gun right now at this point and this level, because you're going to face a enemy that, the best weapon to use is this gun or something.
Yeah.
In games like Dead Cells or something like that, you're coming across the same enemies, and some weapons work better with other enemies, but it's not like you can change your loader, you can change your weapon, but it's like at a certain point you're just sticking with what you've got, and it's like, why change now halfway through a run when I'm doing well with this? The game's not directing me down a narrow corridor and saying you're going to face up against this boss, so here's this weapon. You're forced to use this at a certain point, so it's just like, yeah, you might find a nice new weapon that's much better damage or stuff like that, but it's like, you're never going to pick up the goddamn boots in that game, which I started several runs with those, and I was just like, what's the point?
Completely.
Like, come on.
And then that's kind of the lure of like RPGs and MMOs and things. You can tailor your build how you want, and yes, you may run a dungeon or do something and get a certain, a slightly better set of gear or items which boost certain things, but that they're not the things that you want boosted for the build that you've kind of got.
Yeah.
I think that's definitely what I liked about things like MMOs, things like World of Warcraft. You're like, right, I know that I want this set of gear because it boosts me to have this kind of build, and this kind of build fits really well for me being picked every time for raids, and those sorts of things. Obviously, you don't have that same kind of aspect with a lot of these roguelikes, but it kind of, how you want to play that game. What you are familiar with and what you can power through with and stuff. Yeah, it's a lot of these kind of, you don't quite want that level of randomization. You want a little bit more control over what you're kind of doing. Yeah.
Just us personally. I mean, I get why people like roguelikes, but I ain't got the time, mate.
Yeah, and I mean,
dedication.
But again, I think that's one of those things that Moonlighter kind of gets right. It sort of is a roguelike in that you never die. If you die in a dungeon, you just lose all of the items that you've looted and you get kicked out. But you've built up the weapons that you want. You've got those. You've enchanted them so they do a little bit more damage. You've got the armor on that you want. You've got the kind of a really light kind of build, but it never kind of penalises you for that. So it kind of balances that out really nicely.
So roguelite with the emphasis on light.
Very light, roguelite, light.
Yeah. Like the Zelda Crypt of the Necrodancer game. That was a roguelite game, but it's very easy. So just, I can get along with.
Just make everyone dance. It's fine.
Yeah. Good game.
So the second game I want to talk about, which I know that you have played.
I started it. Yes.
That you started. Yes. It's kind of like a. For me this week, I have to talk about this. It's again another game I got a code for, which is called Solo Islands of the Heart. On Steam, because I just wanted again to go in and see like the price point and stuff. Just called Solo.
Alright, okay.
So I played it on PS4, called Solo Islands of the Heart. I don't know why. But Solo is a kind of is a puzzle game. Almost like a platform puzzler. You are having to
it's 3D.
Place 3D. You have to place boxes in certain places to get to certain platforms to activate a lighthouse, which then allows you to talk to a giant totem. Sounds odd, right? But you are kind of going through these little different islands doing these kinds of things. It's kind of a bit by the numbers in terms of its puzzling kind of elements. You know, as you progress through the game, it introduces different kinds of boxes. You can do different things with them. They will always have. Well, I don't know whether they always have a set configuration to actually achieve jumping up to another platform. A lot of the times it felt like that, but on occasion it kind of felt like maybe I just clipped where I was meant to be very slightly, and I hadn't quite done what I needed to do, but I'd still got there.
I found that it's like, did I just game this a bit, or is it like open-ended enough that I can choose multiple options, but I wasn't sure, and when you're not sure, it's like,
absolutely.
Yeah. It's a bit rough around the edges. It's got a nice aesthetic. You know, I really like the visuals. It's very calming. You know, muted colours and stuff like that. It's set on all these little islands. Nice little islands with these weird little creatures, and reminds me of like a children's like cartoon show, like, I don't know, the Magic thing like that. And
it does have that kind of level of insanity to it, in terms of like, why are these creatures here? Why do I just feed them something and then pet them? Why am I doing this? You do have a few of the more interesting puzzles are where one of the kind of almost weird caterpillar-y, almost black jelly bean type creatures, which are in jumpers, is kind of stranded, and he has to get back to his partner, who's in a mini house over here, and you kind of have to raise all of these different kinds of blocks and put them in different combinations to get him across to a platform, and then possibly get him across another platform, and then get him home. I think they were the better sort of puzzle elements of the game, and I think that's true throughout the game as well. It does mix those puzzles up a little bit, because you kind of get halfway through the archipelago, and you then go into a room and you go underground suddenly, very oddly, and you have sets of puzzles where you have a light cast onto a grid, and you have to put boxes to match the shadows. So you almost take kind of, you haven't got a platform yet, but you've still got to do that same kind of 3D box placing exercise just to do something slightly different. I don't think it doesn't really break up the platform kind of puzzling quite enough. I like that they've thrown something else in there, but I think the game might have worked a little bit better if you were kind of directed to those maybe throughout, kind of moving through the islands, rather than it just being like, oh, just do 3 of these now. How
many islands were there? Did you finish it?
I did finish it. There were... I don't know how many islands there were, but there were 3 sets of islands.
Oh, there's 3 sets, right? Yeah. Okay, because I do want to go back and finish. So I finished the one, and then I was about to get in my little boat.
You then sail off to your next one. I think they also expand a little bit. So the second set of islands have maybe a couple more than the first set, and then the third set have a couple more than the second set. So it does take a little bit more time, but again, the introduction of new boxes kind of paces it quite well. So you're not just monotonously going through this.
Yeah, that's good, because I wasn't a massive fan of the puzzles that I did. Maybe it's because I wasn't sure if I was, as you say, like just clipping, like or just gaming it a bit, or just reaching somewhere where I shouldn't have been, and maybe not doing it in the quote unquote intended way. But I think I preferred like the aesthetics of the game more than the actual gameplay. But if it's short, I might see it, and the puzzles do expand slightly, then might see it through. I found the story and what they're going for like a bit weird.
It opens
up.
It's an odd one really,
Yeah.
because like on paper, I'm super interested.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
it's meant to be this sort of this introspective experience about love and how you kind of experience love, how you kind of feel about your partner, and it throws up lots of different questions
Yeah.
about that kind of stuff, and it all sort of seems like you were building towards something. You're like, okay, well, I've answered, you know, I've gone in this sort of way, and I've gone in this sort of way, and I've said this, and I've said this, and I've said this, and I don't want to spoil it because you still want to kind of play it, Lucy.
You could spoil it for me off air, but
Yeah.
I would just like to know if that pays off. In a
I
more
think
satisfying way.
that I liked that it was asking these questions.
Yeah, I thought
and
the
making
questions
me
were like, yeah, like super deep. It's like
They
damn,
were,
I
yeah,
never thought of
absolutely,
this.
yeah, and it was making me think. But I don't think it pays off enough.
Yeah, I think it was more the structure. It's like it's a 3D puzzle game, and just now and then you're asking me these questions about love, these really, as you say, introspective questions, and it's like, I don't know if this quite gels with the gameplay. I think it's, as you say, fascinating what they were asking, and it gets you to think,
sure.
but yeah, it just seems out of place in a game like this. And what really put me off was at the start of the game, they're like, you know, you can be any gender, you know, you can be gender fluid, you can be male, female, you can, you know, just not state your gender, you know. I was like, cool. And then there were no options. I did play this pre-release. I don't know if it's changed. I don't know if you know. But then I couldn't change my race, or it was like I had to be.
I think I could pick one of 3 people.
It was 3 people,
Yeah.
but they were all white, and it was like it was just like, I
Ooh.
don't mind that. It's just when they said,
Blue, white.
okay, we're gonna make this as open as possible. You know, doesn't matter who you are, what background you're from, you can choose any gender, but you have to be white.
It's not about race, Lucy. It's just about sexuality. That's all. It's not about race.
Yeah, it was just a bit. I wouldn't have
Yeah,
minded that. It was just the fact that they said, like, yeah, you know, we're open to anything. It's like,
Yeah.
and then I can only choose one race for my character.
Well, absolutely, and I think that
just
it's
weird.
one of those that the 3, all that changed from the 3 characters that it gave me was like hairstyle.
Yeah,
Really.
it was just free stock, nondescript male, female, and they wanted you know, one that was just like, yeah, gender fluid, but I can't remember what that one looked like. If it was,
No, I don't remember what that one looked like.
yeah, I mean, obviously this is a, you know, small game, small team. They're not going to have a fully realized character creation thing like in, like, I don't know, the Souls games, or, you know, a BioWare game, but, you know, just sounds rudimentary, but just palette swaps, you know.
Absolutely. So yeah, press
Be
right
blue
for
if I want. Yeah,
press right for guy with more hair. Press up or down to change between 6 different color presets. Like, yeah, absolutely. I think it could have done. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I think that this game kind of could have done a little bit more of.
Yeah.
And it's only a small team. You know, as I watched the credits roll, I was seeing a lot of the same names doing several different things.
Programmer, writer.
Yes, exactly. So, you know, it was only a small team. I don't know how quickly they bashed this out, but I brought up their Steam page. The game is currently £11.40 on Steam, at least. It was it's by, I should say who that is. It's by and developed and published by Team Gotham. They've clearly been inspired by something, but it was a Fig game, so it was a funded game, which I didn't realise. Who knows what that level of funding was, but that kind of, I suppose, at least when I realised it was a Fig game, it kind of made me think, oh, well, okay, sure, they're then working to a very strict kind of budget. There may not be a war chest of a previous release to dip into. There's not a big publisher behind them giving them that little bit extra to do stuff. This is a developed and published, self-published game, obviously funded through Fig. So stuff is limited, but even then, as you say, palette swaps for the characters.
I think it's
not that much to kind of implement.
Yeah, I mean, for 25 years, mostly been playing as white males anyway. But it's just the fact that the opening of the game, like, we're just open to anything. You can be who judge and anything like that, and it's just like, I only have 3 different avatars to choose from. It's
3
just
white
like,
people to
what?
choose.
It was just a bit weird, but I do hope to get back to it because, as I say, I enjoy the aesthetics of it. The weird little light, very pretty. It's a game that for me, a game doesn't have to have everything. I think if it has one thing that I really like a lot, and in this case it is the aesthetics of it, I really like the look of it, and that's enough to keep me going. But let's get back to it.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminded me, at least aesthetically, quite a lot of something like Yonder.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's sort of very kind of cartoony. I think maybe on like a AAA kind of scale, it's almost like something like I was going to say like Dragon Quest Builders, which is kind of that anime sort of version of it. It's a little bit more, blocky than that, a little bit more kind of cartoony than that. But it's sort of a bit stupid saying cartoony when it's fucking one of them's a fucking anime style. But it's a little bit more simple, at least, and a little more blocky. It's not. It's not a cell shading. It's not anime. It's much more kind of polygonal, I guess. In terms of it's very boxy. So everything is at kind of not at right angles as such, but nothing is sort of really ever spherical. Everything is kind of quite angular in the way that it sort of looks, which it does give it a certain kind of charm to it. As you said, Lucy, at the start, it's got a kind of like a limited color palette, which does change as you kind of do different things, but it still keeps it to maybe only 4 colors on the whole island. It's quite boxy in the way it looks. It's very sort of simplified almost, which is really nice. And
it really cool.
And it was a really calm and pleasant environment to kind of explore. And again, the music is very kind of easy, very calming. Nothing about this game except those very introspective questions is ever intense, and even then the questions aren't really intense. It may just be things like, have you only ever been in love with your current partner, and you have the answers being like sort of like yes, no, or something in the middle, like maybe I thought I maybe was, or something like that. It always gives you 3 answers to these things. And I think it's kind of, whilst they aren't intense as such, they do give you a moment to kind of pause and reflect slightly. And you saying the aesthetics for you, I think are the best thing. That for me, it's definitely that introspection, that idea that I am answering these questions kind of quite, that I am answering truthfully. And then you might meet the hologram kind of ghost element of your partner, and they will say a sentence, and it will I don't know, I can't remember any of them. I'm trying to make one up in my mind to kind of give you a flavour about what they kind of say, but it might kind of be, you say do you want to be with your partner forever, and you say yes, and you get to that person, they say, but what if I don't want to be with you forever? You know, I don't think that was one of the questions, but it's kind of that sort of dynamic that you'll get across some of this island. You'll be like, yeah, all right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
That avatar looked like Father Christmas as well for me, because you can choose whether your partner is like male, female. You look like Father Christmas.
The guy with the giant beard.
Yeah.
Like Captain. Well, yeah, I thought it was. So you could pick him as a male character.
Yeah.
I thought he was a bit too Captain Birdseye for me.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I want the guy with the beard. No, Jesus, no, that's definitely Captain Birdseye. But I mean, it's what is it? What did I say it was? £11.40 on Steam. So I don't know.
I'd say see if it goes on sale if you like the look of it and read some of the reviews. I'm sure quite a few of them will be positive because it does. It seems like a game that you could really gel with. You know, if you like the puzzles and you like the message, it just seems like a weird disconnect. Those two going together. It's a bit rough around the edges for me, but
yeah. I feel exactly the same. So that's that. What was that? Solo Islands of the Heart. If you're playing on PlayStation, I don't know if it's the same on Xbox. It has that little subtitle to it. Who knows why? But yeah, or just solo on Steam.
Speaking of subtitles,
ooh,
I did find a game. I was reading like a few columns when I was at work. It's called Short Play. I think is it on. Gosh, whose website is it? I can't remember. It's not.
Is it an itch game?
No. It's just a series of articles, and they're called Short Play, and it's basically I only have a few hours to play a game. I found out about this years ago, and I just forgot about it. But I've come back to it recently. And there was a game called Traffics. I think that's spelled Traffix. And it's on iOS with a different name. I think if you just type Traffics, it will come up. But I think it's like Traffics, colon city something. But it's called Traffics on Steam, and I think it should just be called that on Google Play as well. I believe it's about $3.99. But it's like a mini Metro kind of puzzle game. It's got like a really nice muted aesthetic to it. And you're basically controlling the flow of traffic. Instead of trains and subways that mini Metro was, this is actual like cars on, motorways, highways. It has the same thing in Mini Metro where it goes through all these different cities, and that's how, like, what the infrastructure in a certain city would be like, how it designs the levels. So, for example, in, I don't know, Mumbai, or it might be New Delhi actually, where there's just a big old roundabout and there's so many cars going through, it's just jam-packed all the time. Or like in Havana, there's like a airplane runway going across the roads and stuff like that. So it mixes up the gameplay somewhat, but you're basically just clicking. I got it on iPad because it is just it's very touch friendly, where you're just clicking on the lights for go, and if you double click, that light will stay on green, so all the cars can fly on there until you press it again, and then it'll go back to red.
Okay.
But
so you're literally controlling the controlling the traffic,
Yeah. Whereas Mini Metro was automated, you would literally just setting up the roads and seeing the flow of traffic then, and you didn't really have much control other than to put on new lines and new carts and stuff like that. This is everything's already laid out for you. You're just controlling the traffic. But yeah, it's fun. It's really simple. I'm really enjoying it. I played it far too late last night, and yeah, I think there's about 30, just over 30 levels in total. I think I'm about halfway through. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I really enjoyed Mini Metro earlier this year.
That's a great game.
Yeah, I'm surprised it took me so damn long to play it, but Yeah, this is scratching that itch.
Nice. So, Traffics, the hard
Yeah.
X,
Yes.
is on Android on Google Play for £3.09.
Nice.
And for anyone that wants to look for the articles, Short Play is on The Verge.
Yes, thank you very much. Yep. Q. Yeah,
Little finger tap.
Yeah.
Chad.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep looking at Short Play because I would never have known about this game otherwise, and really enjoy it.
And there are a ton of articles.
Yeah.
Going all the way back down until it will stop loading. I don't know if there's any more passes, but it won't load anymore. From over a year ago, December 2017.
Yeah, I remember looking at it, and I should, put it in my mind palace and be like, remember to go back to that every now and then. Because you might have played a few games that are already on there, but it's nice just to have a look at. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that game.
Yeah.
That's fun.
And scrolling through it, I have not heard of several of them. I mean, well, even, I saw a run of games that I knew of.
Yeah.
But then suddenly there's a lot that I don't know.
Same.
But it's kind of, so it goes down to, as far as it goes down is over 2 years ago, so December 2017. So about 18 months ago. The first one is Doki Doki Literature Club.
Yeah.
And there's a couple more games, and then things like Night in the Woods, Orwell, A Case of Distrust. A few games that are kind of a little bit more known, and then a lot that aren't. Some games I've just never heard of. And then I get to the game that I'm probably going to play next, which is Nog.
Yeah, that's a really good game. That's free on the Epic Store currently.
Exactly why I'm going to play it next, probably.
It's very, 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 very good.
Because
I played it on PlayStation.
Did you?
Yeah.
It's one of the things that kind of Solo has given me. It's given me that want of another puzzle game to kind of go on to something else. So so I think Nog is going to be the next thing that
It's really good.
Yeah.
Really, 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 really. It's just so tactile and just brings back childish wonder of figuring out these puzzle boxes. It's really good. Yeah.
I'm going to play it right now.
Do it. Do it now.
Well, not right now, obviously, but in a very short space of time.
Stop the recording. Go play that game.
We're done. Fuck everything else. Play.
Yeah. Do it.
So, that does seem like a good place for us to finish this week. Unless you have anything else, any other games that you played recently. Cool.
No, that'd only be from nothing new.
Yeah, we've probably talked about everything from previous decades anyway, haven't we?
Yeah, we've covered all the games.
Yeah, exactly. No new games. Apart from, what was it going to talk about next week? Etherborn.
What's that? Sorry?
What was the game you're going to talk about next week?
Etherborn.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. When the deal's back, I'll force him to play it.
When he looks sheepishly at the camera, and you just tell him that he should play this game. And he nods. Yes. So, I mean, there's not really any beers to talk about this week. I really enjoyed Something Dark Side from Heist and Emperor's Brewery. A lovely 11% summer stout. Just got nicer kind of as I drank it. Those flavours just flowed really well together. It was super easy. It's gone down really quickly. It's a lovely beer. Not much more I can say about it, really.
And
so
that was that.
Exactly. Lucy, if people want to tell you about, I don't know, other articles that you should be reading, other ongoing articles about smaller games, how do they do so?
I'm very much on a looking back kick. Maybe it's because I'm nostalgic, because I'm getting older and the hand of death is just on my shoulder permanently. And nostalgia's the only thing that comforts me on these dark nights.
If he's on your shoulder, he's just sat in my fucking lap. That's,
So yeah, I've been looking back recently. So yeah, if you find any articles that are just like, oh yeah, remember old game from this. Like, oh, remember Bully? Remember how fun Bully was? Let's talk about Bully. Let's look back. Yeah, send those over to me at JuicyLoose9, Twitter, Xbox, PlayStation, Steam, Instagram, and that's it really.
Nice.
All the medias.
Everything possible. I am at Nova_47 on everything that I'm on. We are at Tanked Up Cast on Twitter, on Instagram, and I think that's the only two places we are. And which have been very, very ignored as of late because I've just been far too busy with work.
Summer's over. Nobody's doing anything interesting anymore.
Exactly.
Tweet about or Instagram about.
Well, even during the summer,
Snapchat
I
about.
Slack. Snapchat it, mate. Here you go. Here's a picture of a beer.
I don't know.
Like, where are the boobs? Like, well, it's a beer, mate. There's no boobs. You can go to outoflives.net to read some of the articles our contributors are putting up, or listen to other podcasts like the Glorious Movies Show. Shout out to Moody.
We love you, Moody. Doing good work over there.
Absolutely, every week. Every fucking week.
He's a trooper.
He is.
I need
also,
some of the Moody juice. You should bottle whatever he has and just sell it to people.
Well, absolutely, because also go to Out of Lives Net, I think it is now on Twitter, or the Out of Lives Facebook page, because Moody and Scott are sharing tons and tons of stuff, tons of interesting articles, posing questions, get involved.
Scott played Doom. Scott streaming as well.
Yes, Scott did get to play Doom. Doom Eternal.
Lucky boy.
And we are very, very jealous.
Yeah, I've just been thinking about Doom recently. Yeah.
Not the game, just the thing.
Oh yeah, yes, the impending Doom. Yeah.
Oh, winter is definitely here, isn't it? At least it's stout season again. And we can drink as many as we fucking like. Nice. So, that's probably a good place to finish completely for us this week. So, for another week, we've been tanked up. Bye.
Bye. Doomed. All of you.
It's where you just suddenly, every time you think about it, you just seem the Doom Slayer just in the background, and then metal plays.
Yeah, that Simpsons gif, that's so good. I should watch that tonight.
In the first age, in the first battle, when the shadows first lengthened, one stood. He chose the path of perpetual torment. In his ravenous hatred, he found no peace, and with boiling blood, he scoured the umbral plains, seeking vengeance against the Dark Lords who had wronged him. And those that tasted the bite of his sword named him the Doom Slayer.
www.outoflives.net